In every age, people have asked the same questions. What is the good life? How should we treat one another? What does it mean to be free or virtuous or just? What does it mean to be human? Western moral philosophy for beginners and Selenius Media takes you on a guided journey through the minds that shaped the moral backbone of the West, from the earliest Greek thinkers to the modern age. Lived stories of struggle, ambition, conflict, revelation, all unfolding against the sweep of history. If you've ever wanted to understand philosophy clearly, calmly, and humanly, if you want to know not just what these thinkers argued, but why it mattered, follow Western moral philosophy for beginners today and explore 10 more podcasts at Selenius Media. Hypatia of Alexandria, a prominent philosopher of the late 4th and early 5th centuries, stands as a symbol of intellectual rigor and the pursuit of truth in an era marked by burgeoning Christianity and the decline of classical philosophy. Renowned for her work in mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy, Hypatia remains a pivotal figure in moral philosophy, particularly through her relationship with Neoplatonism, an influential school of thought that synthesized Platonic ideals with religious elements. At the heart of Hypatia's philosophy is the idea of the good, a key concept in Neoplatonic thought. For Hypatia, as it had been for Plato and other Neoplatonists, the good transcends the physical world, offering a guiding principle for moral behavior and human flourishing. In a world increasingly driven by dogmatic beliefs, Hypatia's insistence on rational inquiry and the pursuit of truth emphasized the importance of reason as a moral compass. She advocated for the cultivation of virtue through wisdom, placing human knowledge and ethical behavior at the forefront of philosophical discourse. One of the central aspects of Hypatia's work involved her interpretation of Plato's dialogues, particularly the dialogues of Socrates and Timaeus, through the lens of Neoplatonism. Her teachings stressed the notion that everything emanates from a singular source, the one or the good, which informs the cosmos and imbues it with purpose. This interconnectedness between the one and the physical realm hinted at a moral framework founded not merely on rules, but on a deeper understanding of our place within the larger tapestry of existence. Hypatia also engaged with Aristotle's ideas, diverging from some of his more empirical approaches. While Aristotle grounded ethics in observable phenomena and human experiences, Hypatia leaned towards a more idealistic viewpoint, reinforcing the notion that the moral virtues ought to be pursued not only for their pragmatic benefits, but for the elevation of the soul toward the divine. This push towards transcending the material world has raised questions about the applicability of her ideals in the contemporary landscape. Exploring Hypatia's thought further, we can see it addresses key moral dilemmas that persist today. Consider the ongoing debate about artificial intelligence and ethics. In a world where technology increasingly mediates human experience, Hypatia's emphasis on rational inquiry and the pursuit of the good offers a framework for ethical decision-making in the realm of AI development. Questions surrounding algorithmic bias and the moral implications of machine learning echo themes present in her work, namely, the consideration of the greater good and the necessary alignment of technological progress with ethical principles. Yet, Hypatia's legacy also invites critique. While she championed reason and inquiry, critics might argue that her Neoplatonic orientation risks detaching moral philosophy from the realities of human experience. As philosophers like David Hume later contended, emotions and passions are inextricable from moral reasoning. Hume argued that moral actions often stem not purely from rational deliberation, but from feelings and social interactions. In this context, Hypatia's theory may seem elitist or disconnected, suggesting a potential limitation in applying her thoughts to the complexities of modern ethical dilemmas. Responses to this critique emerged from later thinkers who endeavored to blend reason with emotion in moral philosophy. For instance, Immanuel Kant in the 18th century sought to navigate a path between Humean skepticism and rationalist ideals. Kant's categorical imperative, which grapples with the notion of duty and moral action based on universality, parallels some of Hypatia's concerns. Although Kant approached morality from a distinctly different angle, both philosophers share a commitment to foundational principles that transcend individual circumstances. Moreover, in contemporary discussions surrounding personal ethics and societal responsibility, Hypatia's legacy beckons reflection. Her morality, deeply rooted in the pursuit of knowledge, presses us to examine our motivations and the means by which we achieve our ends. This inquiry leads to important questions regarding political action, advocacy for justice, and environmental ethics. In a world rife with injustice and ecological degradation, her vision of acting for the greater good may provide a beacon, guiding ethical considerations in our current political climate. As we delve deeper into her core arguments and their implications, we uncover specific moral teachings that resonate with modern issues. Hypatia's belief in the nurturing of virtues through reason suggests that ethical action arises from the cultivation of character and intellect. In contemporary conversations around law and justice, this idea urges lawmakers and citizens alike to consider not just the written statutes, but the underlying values that inform legal systems. To embody Hume's critique, it requires acknowledging the emotions that drive legislation and societal change, infusing a humanistic perspective into the legalistic framework. In medical ethics, for example, the dilemmas surrounding end-of-life decisions, medical interventions, and patient autonomy are profoundly poignant. Here, Hypatia's advocacy for rational inquiry serves as a guide. Ethical frameworks in medicine often grapple with the balance between beneficence and autonomy. In this light, her emphasis on understanding the good could lead practitioners toward considering the holistic well-being of patients, not just the metrics of health outcomes, but also their values, desires, and dignity in the face of life-altering choices. Turning to critiques faced by Hypatia's philosophy, consider the perspectives of those who challenge the relevance of a primarily rationalist framework. Some argue that an over-reliance on reason in ethical discourse may ignore the rich tapestry of human experience, our emotions, relationships, and social contexts. The individualist ethos that sometimes accompanies rationalist thought risks alienating communal values that are particularly important in a multicultural society. This, in many ways, foreshadows the arguments posed by later moral philosophers who worked to bridge the seeming chasm between rationality and the human condition. Overall, the intricate interplay between Hypatia's ideas and the broader philosophical tradition is a testament not only to her intellect, but also to the enduring relevance of her inquiries. As we contemplate the legacy of Hypatia in our own lives, the challenge remains. How do we embody her commitment to knowledge and virtue in our pursuit of ethical living? Do we hold steadfast to the ideals of a rational quest for the truth, while remaining sensitive to the emotional and experiential realities of our social existence. In reflecting on these questions, we engage not just with Hypatia's past, but also craft a moral compass for navigating the complexity of today's ethical landscape. As listeners, you're invited to consider your own engagements with these ideas. How do the principles of rational inquiry and the pursuit of the good inform your interactions, decisions, and social responsibilities? By drawing on the deep well of philosophical inquiry represented by thinkers like Hypatia, we are reminded of the ongoing journey toward understanding what it means to live a genuinely moral life in the contemporary world. As we navigate through these philosophical concepts, it is essential to delve deeper into Hypatia's specific teachings and arguments that illuminate her moral philosophy, particularly her views on how knowledge shapes ethical action. One of Hypatia's significant contributions to moral thought is her rigorous defense of inquiry as a path to virtue. This stance challenges us to consider the value of education and intellect in our moral lives. The notion that ethical behavior flows from a well-informed character is central to her teachings, suggesting that ignorance is not just a lack of knowledge, but a moral failing in itself. Imagine living in a world where crucial decisions are made based on a superficial understanding of ethical issues. In today's landscape, rife with misinformation and polarizing debates, Hypatia's advocacy for critical thinking and deep comprehension is particularly resonant. Whether it's discussions on climate change, public health policies, or ethical implications in technology, our engagement with knowledge directly influences the moral choices we make. We can draw inspiration from Hypatia as we cultivate our own inquiries into complex social issues, urging ourselves not just to accept prevailing narratives, but to seek out the truth earnestly. Let's consider a core argument derived from her teachings: the connection between self-control, wisdom, and virtue. Hypatia emphasized that cultivating virtues such as temperance and courage requires a deliberate engagement with one's inner life. This idea is deeply relevant in contemporary contexts, particularly in discussions of addiction, mental health, and self-regulation. The challenges we face regarding issues such as substance abuse illustrate how moral fortitude is tested in environments laden with immediate gratification and societal pressures. Hypatia's teachings encourage a comprehensive approach, reminding us that ethical living is not merely about refraining from harmful actions, but actively pursuing the development of virtuous qualities that allow for self-governance and moral resilience. In considering the broader implications of moral philosophy in daily life, we can see parallels in the discourse surrounding social justice. The contemporary notion of intersectionality, which recognizes how various aspects of identity impact experiences of privilege and oppression, echoes Hypatia's perspective on interconnectedness derived from Neoplatonism. This concept invites us to think critically about how our actions affect wider communities and the moral responsibilities we bear to others. Hypatia's call for a focus on the greater good aligns with the need for comprehensive solutions to societal inequalities, urging individuals to consider the implications of their choices on marginalized groups. However, when we reflect on the integration of Hypatia's ideals into modern ethical theory, we encounter an important critique rooted in the tension between rationalism and emotional experience. While Hypatia advocated for reason as the central pillar of moral decision-making, later thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche would argue against such a dispassionate approach. Nietzsche posited that morality originates from life-affirming instincts, and that to live ethically, one must embrace both passion and intellect. Hypatia's rationalism can be seen as prescriptive and possibly at odds with the sometimes chaotic and unpredictable nature of human experience, which is deeply influenced by emotion. Additionally, the challenge posed by contemporary moral psychology complicates the straightforward application of her ideas. Research increasingly suggests that individuals often respond to their emotional states rather than through calculated reasoning when making ethical decisions. This presents a potential limitation in Hypatia's philosophy, as it may presume an ideal rational agent detached from real-world complexities. While her emphasis on critical inquiry remains valuable, understanding that human decisions are often influenced by a range of psychological factors can enrich our appreciation of moral philosophy. In the face of such critiques, several modern philosophers offer reconciliatory frameworks that build on and revise Hypatia's insights. Martha Nussbaum, for instance, is one contemporary thinker who emphasizes the role of emotions in ethical life through her capabilities approach. She argues that a well-rounded ethical framework must account for the full range of human experiences, integrating emotion, reason, and the social context into the moral discourse. Nussbaum's work demonstrates that while rational pursuit of the good is essential, it must coexist with an appreciation of human sentiments and relational dynamics, a harmony between reason and emotion. Turning back to Hypatia's legacy and its connection to earlier philosophical traditions, we find her ideas resonating with those of Socrates, who famously asserted that the unexamined life is not worth living. Both Socratic philosophy and Hypatia's teachings affirm the necessity of introspection as a pathway to moral awakening. For Socrates, the pursuit of knowledge was intrinsically tied to virtue and ethical action, an idea that Hypatia expanded upon by weaving it into the Neoplatonic tradition, emphasizing the transcendent nature of truth. On the other hand, we can examine her influence on later thinkers such as Plotinus, a key figure in Neoplatonism, who further developed the notion of the one and the moral implications of emanation. While Hypatia's contributions to the field were primarily focused on moral knowledge and rational ethics, Plotinus introduced the concept of the soul's ascent toward the divine, suggesting that moral inquiry is not only about understanding the good, but also about aligning oneself with a higher reality. This elevation of moral philosophy toward the divine connection provides a fascinating trajectory that weaves through Western moral thought, illustrating how philosophical ideas evolve while retaining core inquiries about humanity and ethics. Thus, these connections not only enrich our understanding of Hypatia's contributions, but also highlight her enduring relevance in the moral landscape we navigate today. Her engagement with the foundational aspects of knowledge and virtue serves as a reminder of the continuous evolution of ethical thought. This historical chain underscores the importance of dialogue in the philosophical tradition, an ongoing conversation where ideas are challenged, reshaped, and transformed over centuries. As we reflect on the implications of Hypatia's thought for our own lives, we might consider the moral dilemmas we regularly encounter and how we engage with them. The call to cultivate wisdom through inquiry resonates deeply in an age dominated by rapid information exchange. In conversations about ethics at work, social commitments, or familial responsibilities, it becomes apparent that genuine moral reflection can derive from a commitment to understanding the underlying principles that govern our actions. Just as Hypatia championed the quest for truth, we too are invited to cultivate a critical stance towards our surroundings, challenging assumptions and remaining open to the complexities that define our experiences. The moral convictions we hold are shaped not only by our intellectual pursuits, but also by our interactions with the world around us. Hypatia's legacy reminds us that embodying ethics requires commitment to thoughtful engagement. It prompts us to ask ourselves, how do we facilitate open discussions in our communities? Are we nurturing environments where differing opinions can be examined rationally and respectfully? In our digital era, where polarized discourse has become rampant, the challenge is to embrace Hypatia's ideals by being active participants in seeking the good, both within ourselves and in our larger societal contexts. Furthermore, consider the role of mentorship, learning, and dialogue in our ethical development. Hypatia was known for her role as a teacher, guiding students in their intellectual pursuits. This aspect of her life emphasizes the importance of fostering a culture of inquiry and critical engagement in our spheres of influence. As you engage with those around you, particularly younger generations or peers, think about the ways you can inspire curiosity and a commitment to virtue. By instilling a love for knowledge and ethical understanding, we can perpetuate a lineage of ethical inquiry that stretches back through history. Echoing the voices of philosophers like Hypatia, ultimately, the invitation to integrate Hypatia's philosophical vision into our lives is not just a call to adopt lofty ideals, but a challenge to engage with the intricacies of moral existence. How will you embody the spirit of rational inquiry in your choices and interactions? In what ways can you cultivate a deep understanding of the ethical dimensions of your actions? By grappling with these questions and actively pursuing knowledge, we continue the journey that Hypatia embarked upon centuries ago, striving for a more virtuous and understanding world. As we conclude this exploration of Hypatia, the philosopher of Alexandria, consider her enduring influence as an encouragement to pursue truth and cultivate ethical frameworks that resonate with your own moral compass. The journey toward understanding the good is ongoing, challenging us to think critically and compassionately. In doing so, we honor her legacy and contribute to the rich tapestry of ethical philosophy that shapes our lives today. As we continue our exploration of Hypatia's contributions to moral philosophy, let us delve into the broader implications of her teachings on the interconnectedness of knowledge, ethics, and human existence. Hypatia's philosophical framework encourages us to not only reflect on the moral implications of our individual actions, but also to recognize the systemic nature of ethical dilemmas we face in society. This recognition is crucial, as it allows us to navigate the complexities of modern life with a contemplative approach rooted in robust philosophical inquiry. One area where Hypatia's ideas are particularly relevant is in the ongoing discussions about environmental ethics. As global issues like climate change and biodiversity loss become ever more pressing, her teachings resonate strongly with the call for a deeper understanding of our place within the natural world. Hypatia's notion of the good as a transcendent principle encourages a holistic view that recognizes the interdependence of all beings. She challenges us to consider how our actions not only affect our immediate community, but also the broader ecological systems that sustain life on Earth. This kind of ethical contemplation aligns well with modern environmental ethics, which argue for a responsibility toward future generations and non-human entities. In this context, applying Hypatia's insights requires us to engage with the motivations behind our ecological choices. This means not only advocating for policies that protect the environment, but also reflecting on our consumption patterns, our relationship with nature, and the ethical dimensions of technology in ecological contexts. The tension between technological progress and environmental preservation could find a deeper resolution through a lens inspired by Hypatia, one that prioritizes a rational inquiry into what constitutes a sustainable and thriving world. Hypatia's emphasis on the pursuit of the good can guide discussions about corporate responsibility, resource management, and conservation efforts, compelling us to think critically about how we relate to the natural world. Moreover, Hypatia's emphasis on education and intellectual rigor is particularly important as we grapple with the moral challenges posed by technological advancement. For instance, in fields such as biotechnology, artificial intelligence, and genetic engineering, ethical dilemmas often arise that require thoughtful scrutiny. Here, we can see how Hypatia's insistence on knowledge as a pathway to virtue can guide our approach to these emerging technologies. The question is not only about what we can do with technology, but also about what we should do. As we strive to create ethical frameworks for technological innovations, we are reminded of Hypatia's teachings. Simply understanding the mechanics of the system is insufficient without grasping the moral implications of our actions within that system. Consider the dilemmas arising from the development of autonomous systems, particularly in relation to mass surveillance and data privacy. In an era where personal data is often exploited for profit, the ethical considerations surrounding consent, autonomy, and the potential for harm become stark. With her focus on rational inquiry, Hypatia would likely advocate for a critical examination of these practices, pushing us to assess whether our technological advancements are truly aligned with the good, or whether they contribute to systemic injustices. Engaging in discussions about algorithmic accountability and transparency is essential, as it ensures that the technological frameworks we adopt are not only effective, but also ethical. The challenges posed by contemporary medicine further highlight the need for ethical frameworks that take inspiration from Hypatia's focus on the interplay between knowledge and virtue. Medical ethics grapples with complex issues such as patient autonomy, end-of-life care, and equitable access to healthcare. Hypatia's perspective encourages a nuanced understanding that goes beyond mere procedural adherence to laws or protocols. It calls for an embodiment of ethical virtues such as compassion, respect, and integrity within medical practice. In an era where medical professionals often feel pressured to focus on efficiency and productivity, her insights remind practitioners of the importance of prioritizing the holistic well-being of patients. Consider, for instance, the ethical implications of advanced medical technologies such as genetic therapies or precision medicine. While these innovations hold great promise, they also bring ethical considerations surrounding consent, equity, and the potential consequences of playing God. As healthcare becomes increasingly personalized, Hypatia's emphasis on the pursuit of knowledge and the underlying moral realities could create a foundation for more rigorous ethical discussions in medicine. In deliberating about these technologies, it is essential not only to assess their scientific merits, but also to contemplate their impact on relationships, dignity, and our shared humanity. In addition to these contemporary applications, Hypatia's notions of rational inquiry and the interconnectedness of knowledge and ethics affirm the broader historical struggles for social justice. The relevance of her philosophical approach connects to the moral imperatives of justice movements today, inviting us to ponder the ethical dimensions of activism and advocacy. The insistence on a pursuit of the greater good, a common thread in Hypatia's thought, aligns with the calls for equity and justice we see manifest in various social movements. This approach emphasizes the importance of informed action grounded in a respect for the inherent dignity of all individuals. However, there are critiques of Hypatia's framework that deserve attention, particularly regarding her predominant focus on reason. While she saw reason as the key to moral action, critics might argue that such an approach, while valuable, can overlook the significance of emotional intelligence in ethical decision-making. Contemporary moral philosophy increasingly recognizes that emotions play a crucial role in shaping our ethical perspectives and actions. The interplay between reason and emotion invites a complex negotiation in moral philosophy, reminiscent of discussions surrounding virtue ethics, particularly in the work of Aristotle and further developed by modern thinkers like Nussbaum. Moreover, while recognizing the intellectual rigor of Hypatia's approach, we might also critique the applicability of her ideals within diverse socio-cultural contexts. A rigid adherence to rationalism may risk neglecting the nuances of lived experience that inform moral reasoning in various communities, emphasizing the importance of context in ethical deliberation. This acknowledgement aligns with the evolution of moral philosophy, which increasingly embraces a pluralistic approach. By engaging with diverse perspectives, we create a richer ethical tapestry, one that acknowledges the multiplicity of human experiences while striving for shared moral goals. Hypatia's legacy, marked by her commitment to knowledge and ethical engagement, can also be connected to contemporary movements pushing for inclusivity in philosophy, stemming from critiques of traditional Western moral frameworks. The incorporation of intersectionality into ethical discourse invites a re-examination of the roots of moral understanding, ensuring that the voices of marginalized communities inform our collective ethical considerations. This evolution parallels Hypatia's inquisitive spirit and commitment to dialogue, urging us to explore new avenues in the moral landscape. At the other end of the historical spectrum, we can draw connections between Hypatia's emphasis on rational inquiry and the Enlightenment thinkers who followed her, such as René Descartes and John Locke. While their philosophical inquiries expanded the landscape of Western thought, they also carried forward the ideal of reason as central to ethical and moral understanding. Descartes' philosophical method of doubt, for instance, resonates with Hypatia's advocacy for critical inquiry, suggesting a shared commitment to the importance of doubt, reflection, and analysis in the pursuit of truth. Moreover, lexical approaches in the late 20th century, such as those proposed by Judith Butler, illustrate a shift away from sole reliance on rational structures toward embracing the complexities of lived experiences. Butler's exploration of ethics through the lens of identity politics underscores the need for a more integrative philosophical approach, one that incorporates both emotion and rationality, echoing the ongoing relevance of Hypatia's emphasis on the interplay between these aspects. In challenging the legacies handed down from earlier philosophers, these modern thinkers invite us to locate our own moral inquiries within a broader historical and social context. Reflecting on how Hypatia opened the doors to philosophical conversations requires us to engage in courageous discussions about the complexities of contemporary life, inviting us to be aware of the ethical dimensions that shape our interactions with the world. As we continue to engage with these philosophical inquiries, we can draw inspiration from Hypatia's approach to knowledge, ethics, and virtue. By embracing the spirit of inquiry that she personified, we can cultivate environments where debate, discussion, and diverse opinions foster a rich philosophical culture. This process cultivates critical thinking and empowers individuals to grapple with the moral challenges we face in a rapidly evolving world, thereby encouraging us to live ethically and responsibly. Ultimately, contemplating Hypatia's philosophical legacy invites us to envision what ethics can look like in practice. Central to this exploration is the understanding that ethical questions are rarely straightforward. They require us to engage deeply with the complexities of human life. Hypatia's teachings embolden us to approach our ethical engagements with humility and an openness to learning. Just as Hypatia expanded the boundaries of philosophy in her time, we have the opportunity to carry this legacy forward and shape a more ethical world in our own era. So as we await the next philosophical inquiry, let us reflect on how we embody Hypatia's spirit of rational inquiry and ethical engagement in our own lives. How might we foster environments that promote critical dialogue and the pursuit of the good? In this ongoing journey toward understanding, we are reminded that ethical living requires continual reflection and the courage to act according to our principles. Each interaction, each decision, holds the potential for ethical growth, a testament to the enduring power of Hypatia's legacy in shaping our moral landscape today.
Midnight rails under silver moon, dusty boots on a winding road. A shadow's the only friend I've known since she packed up and let me go. Empty whiskey bottle on the seat, her laugh still echoes in my bones. Saddle's heavy with memories. I ride alone where the wind still blows. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Sunrise paints the horizon gold, but it don't warm a lonesome soul. Every town I pass feels half her size. Every trail's haunted by goodbye. I whisper prayers to open skies, hoping someday my heart'll find a brand new path beyond the pain, where broken hearts can heal in time. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be, nowhere else to be. Nowhere else to be.